I'm Leslie Maddox, an engineer turned homeschool mom, and I want to help you customize your homeschool. In a previous Homeschool Planning Decoded video, I encouraged you to explore curriculum systems and choose the one that seems like it would work best for your family, at least for the coming year. Let's continue customizing your homeschool by talking about how to set up the various systems that I recommended. Just as a reminder, the Homeschool Plan Decoded Starter Kit contains an info sheet with descriptions of those systems. You can find a link to the starter kit below. Before organizing your curriculum into a curriculum system, you'll need to do some prep. The prep required will depend on both the curriculum and the curriculum system that you've chosen. If you purchase electronic copies of workbooks, you'll need to print them out or use an online service like the Homeschool Printing Company to print them. Just be aware that some printing services require quite a bit of lead time, so if you use one of them, get the process started as soon as possible. If you need to take workbooks apart for use in a workbox or a weekly binder system, you'll need to take apart your workbooks now. If your workbook pages are not perforated, take your workbooks to a print copy shop and have the spines cut off. You may want to call ahead and make sure that they're willing to do this for you. Some print copy shops won't because the glue used in the binding process damages their machines. But if they do, go ahead and get the pages from the deconstructed workbook hole punch for binders too if you're planning to put them into binders eventually. If you're more of a DIYer, you can use a utility knife or rotary cutter to cut the pages out yourself, but results are much better when a machine does the cutting for you. Maybe you have a steadier hand than me though. Now on to the curriculum systems. There are 3 requirements to a curriculum system. The first is a way to store curriculum materials like worksheets and activities in an organized way so that weekly or daily prep is quick and easy. The second requirement is a way to let your kids know what work they need to do that day so that they can work somewhat independently, even kindergartners and preschoolers. This independent aspect also keeps you from having to micromanage each moment of the day for all of your kids. Nobody's got time for that. The third aspect is a way to store completed work for portfolios and reporting. So as we look at how to set up each of these systems, I'll point out how they meet those needs. Let's start with a workbox system. This was the system that I used for many years. I have videos, which I'll link below, showing how I used the workbox system. The easiest way to set up a workbox system is to get a drawer cart or drawer unit with a drawer for each subject. And it's important that your child be able to reach into each drawer on their own to encourage independence. I used a 10-drawer cart with wide drawers so that they could easily hold a binder. If you want something that looks more like furniture, you can look at the drawer units at IKEA. In order for your kids to know what work they need to do, you can use a checklist or indicator. Indicators are perfect for younger children that are not yet reading. I use these little white indicators that just stuck to the drawer. I switched the indicator to green to let my kids know that they have work to do in that drawer. They would switch it to red when they were done. But I gotta tell you, I've had a really hard time finding the indicators lately. So I included another option for workbox indicators in the starter kit. Print them out, and then with a little glue and some Velcro dots, you can create your own indicators. With older kids, you can use a checklist instead of indicators on the drawer. In this case, you'll want to put subject labels on each drawer so that they'll know where to go for each activity. And each drawer will hold the workbooks, binders, and materials needed for that subject. The starter kit includes workbox labels already made for you, so all you have to do is print them out. I used Avery removable sticker project paper to print these labels, then cut them down to size. I even like putting number labels on the drawers for little kids to work on number recognition. The starter kit includes those labels too. As for the checklist, the starter kit includes daily lesson plan worksheets for you to fill out for your kids. The starter kit also includes cute My Schoolwork Today pages that are perfect for younger kids. Choose if you want to organize the schoolwork by independent or parent-led work, or by dividing the work up into morning and afternoon work. Use Velcro dots to affix the little subject and extracurricular boxes to the page so that your kids know what to expect that day. When they complete a task, they can move it down to the Done area. If your lesson plans are digital, look for a way to print out a report of your kids' daily or weekly assignments. I use Homeschool Planet and simply print out the calendar view with one student selected at a time. That way I have the entire week's assignments on paper. kept the weekly list for each student on a clipboard near their drawers. When it comes to storing the workbooks and worksheets that your student will do throughout the year, you have a couple of options. You can dedicate each drawer to a particular subject or activity, label it as such, and keep those materials in the drawer. So for math, you would have a math drawer and keep the math workbook in there. If you use binders for a subject like morning calendar work, you can keep the binder in the drawer. Or if you'd prefer to put only the daily assignment in that drawer, you'll need to organize all the work to be done in a hang-in file system. So keep a file crate that can hold hang-in file folders on or near the drawers. Label a hang-in folder for each subject and store your materials in the appropriate folder in the order that you want to use each worksheet. That way, when you need to fill your drawers, you can just grab the next worksheet from the folder. If you have workbooks, you may want to tear apart your workbooks to store the individual worksheets in the folders. You could also use the file crate to store small items like scissors and glue that you regularly put into drawers. Another way to use drawer units for curriculum is to dedicate a drawer to days of the week. So you could put everything that needs to be done on Monday into the Monday drawer, everything for Tuesday into the Tuesday drawer, etc. Label each drawer for the day of the week and keep a file crate nearby with your files or small items to put in the drawers. Update the content of the drawers once a week. When using workboxes, what should you do with completed work, especially if you need to keep samples of your students' work? One thing you could do is assign a spot for each student to put their completed and checked work, a bin, wall pocket, or paper organizer. A more organized system will be to use that file crate. Keep a folder in each hang-in file folder for the completed work. All right, let's move on to another curriculum system, subject binders and workbooks. This one should be self-explanatory, but just to be clear, curriculum worksheets are either kept in a binder dedicated to that subject or in the workbook that they came in. If using binders, try to put the student's work for the entire year in the binder, or maybe 2 binders, in the order that the student will complete that work. Even if your curriculum comes in the form of workbooks, you may want to take them apart if you want to change the order that your students do their work. The starter kit contains pages that you can use as binder covers for these subject binders. Since all of your students' work for the year will be in binders, you don't need to have a separate system to store work to be done or completed work. It'll all be in the binders. Ideally, you'll store all of your students' binders on or near the student's work area, on a shelf or in a bin. IKEA's metal magazine holders work well for workbooks since they're so sturdy. Label your magazine holders and bins for specific subjects so that accompanying books and textbooks for each of those subjects can be stored in the same magazine holder or bin. You can use that same project sticker paper for these labels. Or you can combine the subject binder and workbook system with the workbox system and assign a drawer to each subject, storing binders, workbooks, and textbooks together in a drawer. Some craft drawer systems will be too narrow for binders, so take that into consideration. Use a checklist, as we discussed earlier, or weekly routine so that students know what work they should do. With a weekly routine, as long as they know what subjects they should work on each day, and as long as the work in their binders is in the order that it needs to be done and there's some consistency to it, they can always know what needs to be done next. For example, let's say on Mondays and Tuesdays, your students should do math, spelling, grammar, writing, literature, and history. You would need consistency in how you approach each subject if you don't want your kids to ask you every day what pages they should do. So maybe on Mondays, they know that they'll be working with you to cover new material in math, spelling, grammar, and writing, and your family will do history together. But they can continue their literature studies independently. But on Tuesdays, they can work independently to continue their literature studies and do 2 pages in their math workbooks, practice that week's spelling words in an app that you've set up, work with you on grammar and writing, and then history as a family together again. Routines like this can keep you from having to deal with checklists, but will require consistency in your days. The next curriculum system is the one I'm using right now, the weekly binder system. With this system, all of the students' work for the week is put into one binder that is divided into sections. I've seen it divided into 5 sections, one for each day, but it makes more sense to me to have one section for each subject. Use pocket dividers with tabs to delineate your sections. The pockets are helpful for small items like flashcards stored in a Polly Pocket or for when pages are accidentally torn out of the binder. I use a label maker to make labels to put on the tabs of each divider, because the labels that you put into the tabs are always and forever falling out of my kids' binders, meaning that our floors were not only littered with pencils, but also literature and social studies labels. Another nice thing about the weekly binders is that you can keep other supplies in it. A pencil holder is helpful. This one works well because it can hold pencils and pens of varying sizes, but I will warn you that my youngest thought it was more fun than a Slinky and tore it apart. These pencil cases are nice too. I like that it's held firmly in the binder and has a window. They even hold these 6-inch rulers, which are helpful for math assignments or even as a straight edge for sentence diagramming. These larger pockets are great too and can hold flashcards or other small items. Some curriculum comes in thin workbooks or pamphlets. For those, you can slip them into magazine holder binder inserts. Update the binders once a week, maybe Friday afternoon or over the weekend, with the next week's worksheets. You will need a checklist or routine for your students to know what work they should do that day. You can use the subject planner worksheet from the starter kit and keep one for each subject in its binder section. For a weekly checklist, just hole punch it and keep it at the front of the binder. For weekly routines that won't be updated every week, laminate and hole punch it and keep it as the first item in the binder. And then where do you store curriculum until it's needed? File crates work just like with the work boxes, or you could try a rolling file cart that you can fit under a desk. I've been using this rolling cart, which holds work for all 3 of my boys for the year. It also has 2 good-sized pockets and storage underneath for 3 hole punch, extra binders, or other supplies. I color code my kids, so I use my kids' colors for hanging files. Each hanging file contains a manila folder and a color that I don't use for anything else to hold completed work. Since that manila folder is a unique color, I don't have to label it. So when I update my kids' binders each week, I remove the work that they completed for each subject, put whatever I want to keep in the completed work folder in that subject's hanging file, and then grab the next batch of work for the binder. To make things even easier on yourself when you do your weekly update, make sure that you have hole punched whatever you need to hole punch when you organize your curriculum into the hanging files. The last curriculum system is the one I'm moving to for my oldest next school year, a digital curriculum system. Setup will depend on how you're going digital. If you're doing online courses, check the technical specifications for the course and find out if your student can do the course on a tablet or if they will need a laptop. You also want to find out necessary operating systems, memory specifications, and even which browsers are supported. Once you're confident that the course will run on the actual device your student will be using, you can make sure to install a browser and any other software like Java that your student will need to run the course. If there's the possibility that your student will need to print wirelessly from the device, make sure that your student has access to a printer that supports that and run a test print from the device just to make sure. For example, we use Apple devices, so I purchase printers that support AirPrint. That way we can print from iPads and Apple laptops. Online courses are great, but your student could use traditional workbooks and worksheets in a note-taking app on their tablet. In order to set that up, I recommend purchasing the PDF of the curriculum and using it in the app GoodNotes. If you want to be able to check your students' work on your own device, I recommend installing GoodNotes on your device. Then import the curriculum into GoodNotes onto your device first. This should be easy if you've set up a backed up digital file system like I recommended in the last Homeschool Planning Decoded video. Just import the document from Dropbox or iCloud or Google Drive. Then share that document with your student by getting the shareable link and sending it to your student. After it's all set up in GoodNotes on your student's tablet, you'll be able to check and grade their work on your own tablet. It's magical. Makes me so happy. Don't forget to back up GoodNotes or whatever note-taking app you use. You can set up GoodNotes to back up regularly, or you can set up a reminder for you to manually back up your students' work weekly. At the end of the school year, or whenever your student has completed work in a particular document, export that completed document from GoodNotes. If you've set up the digital file system that I recommended, you'll want to export it to your portfolio folder, and you can print select pages from that document as examples of your students' work. Now let's talk about ebooks. I adore books, and I adore e-readers. The first Kindle I purchased was a dream come true to my book-loving heart. Each of my kids has a Kindle, both for schoolwork and for pleasure. The way I've chosen to set them up is to create Gmail and Amazon accounts just for our homeschool. The Kindles are connected to our homeschool Amazon account. That way, once I purchase a book for a school reading, all my kids will have access to it, just like they would if it were a physical book. I also check out ebooks from the library for them to read on their Kindles, as long as the library has a Kindle version of those books. You can even download the Kindle app to your students' tablets. Other e-readers may have something similar. My oldest son loves this because he can pull up his book to one side of his screen and his literature worksheets and GoodNotes on the other side of the screen. It's so darn convenient. My nerdy heart loves this solution. In the next Homeschool Plan Decoded video, we'll talk about setting up a teacher reference system, either physical or digital. Remember that you can access all of the videos that walk you through the steps of the Homeschool Plan Decoded method of customizing your homeschool right now at the link below. And happy organizing!